What do we think of Dan Andrews? What do we think of ScoMo? Closing our borders, keeping us in, we can't get out. Let's reject communism.
Boom shakalaka, ladies and gentlemen, brothers and sisters around the world. It is your boy, Chris Yule, aka the Esoteric Noetic, aka the Chocolate Nubian Sobrada from Ghana, West Africa, dropping the wisdomatic truth bombs here in Melbourne, Australia, mate. You know I'm true blue, because I stand with Dan, I stand on team, meh. I'm not a black sheep, mate. I always do as I'm told. Be sure to like the video, subscribe, click on the bell, tell your friends, tell your mom, drop some comments, let us know what it is. Let's get it. Ladies and gentlemen, over the weekend, I attended the Worldwide Rally for Freedom. All across the world, many, many cities, people came together to say nay to tyranny, to stand on the river of truth and say that they will not comply with these violations of their freedoms, that they believe that the rights of the individual shall not be sacrificed for the greater good. Something which would not have been a controversial statement 50, 60, 70 years ago, but now is somehow considered to be an immoral thing. What is this? You believe in freedom? Freedom is evil. We must all sacrifice ourselves because we must keep each other safe. This is the new world. This is the mantra of the new world order. This talismanic word that has been used to enslave people. You're a good person. Just compromise your freedoms. Hold to the power of the state, and they shall do what is best for you and your friends. Ladies and gentlemen, I was inspired by the rally that I went to. It was great to see so many people from different parts of the world all uniting under the banner of freedom. We had Christians there. We had atheists there. We had black people there. I noticed another brother. We had brown people. We had white people. This movement is not a movement about race, about rich or poor, about whether or not you identify as a woman or a man or somewhere in between. It's about, you know what it's about. Say it with me. It's about freedom, ladies and gentlemen. And despite what they tell you, despite them perpetuating this idea that these conspiracy theorists, these anti-vaxxers, are people that are trying to sabotage you wanting to get this boom shakalaka because they are delusional and they believe in crazy conspiracy theories. No, fundamentally, this is a freedom about ethics, morality, freedom from aggression. And I know a lot of people have this idea that, oh, look, mate, it's the law. It's the law. You shouldn't be protesting. It's the law. You should be forcibly boom shakalaka. It's the law. You need to do whatever the police officers tell you to do. Let's make it very clear, ladies and gentlemen, that everything that Hitler did was legal. What the Nazis did was legal. People need to make a distinction between that which is mandated by the state, legalese, which a lot of these lawyers often perpetuate. Most of these lawyers that are in the mainstream media don't give a rat's ass about freedom, about truth, about actual law. They buy into this legalist system which allows you to do anything that the state deems is appropriate for the greater good, which sacrifices the real law, the natural law, God's law, in favor of strategies to keep us all together as one because we love everyone, which eventually leads to tyranny. Anyway, the point I'm trying to make, ladies and gentlemen, is that we are living in a world where the government has deemed it even appropriate to violate things that we learned from the Nuremberg Code, the Human Rights Charter. And they will use their legalese, their magic talismanic words, and they will obfuscate the situation and tell you that it's actually completely in line with the law, when in actuality, anyone with more than 2 brain cells can tell you that it is absolutely a violation. Which brings me to this story. The Nuremberg trials of 2021 shall be going ahead. Apparently 1,000 lawyers and 10,000 doctors have filed a lawsuit for violations of the Nuremberg Code. Now, I want people to actually take it upon themselves to go read the Nuremberg Code, because often people just rely on what the mainstream media are saying. That, oh, look, we're not violating the Nuremberg Code, but they don't seem to have read the Nuremberg Code. They don't seem to understand what it's about. Let's be very clear about this. The Nuremberg Code, the number one clause within the Nuremberg Code. It has these 10 principles. The number one principle is that the voluntary consent of the human subject is absolutely essential. This means that the person involved should have legal capacity to give consent, should be so situated as to be able to exercise free power of choice without the intervention of any element of force, fraud, deceit, duress, overreaching of other ulterior form of constraint or coercion. Let that be a very clear word, coercion, ladies and gentlemen. What the government is engaging in right now is they're telling you that unless, of course, you go ahead with this, we're not going to allow you to leave your country, leave your home, to participate in society. They're essentially using force through coercion, coercive violence, to restrict your unalienable rights, which is a direct violation of the Nuremberg Code. And granted, they will tell you that, oh, look, it's voluntary. Granted, I've even seen fact checkers, this is on Facebook, make arguments. And it's interesting that you have a look at the fact checkers on Facebook, and they're funded by companies that are pharmaceutical companies that make boom shakalakas. You know what I'm talking about? Seems to be a conflict of interest here. It seems to be that they would have an invested interest in what is going on right now, what the government is implementing, forced boom shakalakas to be a violation. They'd have an interest in this not being a violation of the Nuremberg Code, don't you think? But anyway, I digress. You have a look at the actual Nuremberg Code, and it's specifically saying that it's wrong for a government to violate someone's consent. This is the number one clause, consent. Now, granted, we can talk about whether or not this thing is a good idea, whether or not it's going to be beneficial for the greater community at large. This whole science argument, it's necessary in order to protect people, herd argument. That's another conversation. But ladies and gentlemen, unless you have a consent-based system of law, you can justify anything. And this is the fundamental theme that we find is within the Nuremberg Code. Now, granted, they speak about many things, but this fundamental principle is being violated right now. And it's all been done with this argument that it's for safety. Oh, look, it's not a violation of the Nuremberg Code because it's a public safety measure. Look, we're not really performing any medical intervention because it's for your safety. Like somehow doing something because the justification is for safety, like good intentions, makes it a right. Good intentions do not justify violations of your freedom. That doesn't make any sense logically. Like to say that this is what they're saying, this is what these cronies, these fact checkers are saying, that fundamentally they're not violating your rights. They're not violating the Nuremberg Code. They're not violating the Human Rights Charter, even though what they're doing is a violation. But because it's done for the purpose of keeping you safe, it's not rape. It's like saying if I rape you and the intention was good, that it was in order to keep you safe, it's not rape. Doesn't take a genius to realize that that's absolute insanity. So, according to this article, a team of over 1,000 lawyers and over 10,000 medical experts led by Dr. Rainer Fuellmich have begun legal proceedings against the CDC, that's the World Health Organization, and the Davos Group for crimes against humanity. Now, I'm not saying this, but they are. Fuellmich and his team present the faulty PCR test and the order for doctors to label any comorbidity death as a COVID death as a fraud. That's a bold claim. The PCR test was never designed. Anyway, I can't read all of this kind of stuff because Facebook, YouTube may not like what these lawyers are proposing. But let's just say that they're going to court to prove this, because this is what's supposed to happen, ladies and gentlemen. The courts are the one avenue where people get to put their evidence. One side puts their evidence, another side puts their evidence. You come together and you look at it honestly to arrive at the truth, rather than having this situation where you suppress any information that is contrary to yours and say they're not allowed to give their information because it's hate speech or because it's conspiracy theories. No. We arrive at this battlefield of the court and make our case. Now, granted, I realize that the avenue here is obviously going to be skewed in favor of the establishment, that it's going to be very difficult to have a fair court case when so many people within the establishment have a vested interest in the truth not coming out. Because the truth, ladies and gentlemen, as I keep saying, is not about the science. I'm not going to get into the efficacy of the boom shakalaka, of the validity of SARS 2.0. But the issue comes down to the fact that we are living in a world right now where our rights are being taken away from us, where this dream spell has been cast, where people are under the illusion that they have no rights. They don't know their rights, therefore they don't have them. Where people somehow think that freedom is synonymous with safety. Where they've been led to think that fundamentally the government has a right to do everything that it's doing. And to be frank, I think people truly just want to be babysitted. Most people think they want freedom, but deep down they know they don't. Most people would much rather force their fellow countrymen to give up their freedoms because they're scared. Freedom, ladies and gentlemen, takes courage. It is one of the highest virtues because at the underlying essence of freedom, which is about life, it takes courage to live your life. It takes courage to stand for what is true, not to be living in this realm of fear where you're so worried about what might happen to you. We're all going to die, ladies and gentlemen. I'm going to die, most likely. Now, granted, some of us think we're going to live forever. But the reality is, those that are not afraid of death, those that will walk through the valley of the shadow of death and fear no evil, they're the ones that usually pave the way, usually cast the light for all to be inspired by and lead by example. And are usually the people that bring about the most amount of change in this world. The Martin Luther Kings, the Gandhis, the Joan of Arcs, the light bearers, the disseminators of wisdomatic truth bombs. Anyway, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to leave it here. Let us know what you think about what is going on in your country about these Nuremberg trials, Nuremberg 2.0. Until next time, be sure to check out the Telegram group. Be sure to check out the Hive posts that I've been making on Hive, amazing blockchain. And illuminate your minds with wisdom. Strengthen your will with love. Purge all negative thought patterns from your existence. Oh, and be sure to check out my latest podcast with Jay Dallas that I dropped talking about mind, body, spirit, eating disorders. Be sure to give us a rating on iTunes if you like what you're listening to. Until next time. Ow!
What is liberty?
What the? Who says you can't build muscle on a vegan diet?
What's it like being a hottie in the vegan community?
There are no political solutions, only technological ones.
The economics of the system don't allow multiple competing systems to survive.
Engineering, technology, these arts of humanity, they are magic.